morning. It's January the 4th, 2010, and it's very cold here in Maryland. It's been cold for the last couple of days, as a matter of fact. High winds, everything else. Typical Maryland weather. You don't know what you're going to get. You're going to get a Siberian wind, and then a tropical warmth, and then some rain, possibly a heavy snowstorm after that. Pretty much all of the remnants of the December 19th and 20th snowstorm are pretty much gone now. I was watching a video on ZJ's channel about genocide and so forth, and I sent him a note about it, about some of my experiences with the Christian justification for the Holocaust during World War II against the Jews. But one of the things I wanted to comment on was that most of the time what you need is a convenient fantasy for people to believe in so that mass psychology can be mobilized and in some cases militarized to control mass populations to do whatever you want them to do. And in that respect, I wonder sometimes if we've ever had any such thing as capitalism in this country, and whether or not we've had a very successful form of socialism for a long time. When you think about the fact that the military has been intimately intertwined with industry and educational institutions since the end of World War II, for matter of fact, since the beginning of World War II, and that this is pretty much what has primed the pump for the economy for a long time. Now it continues to be that way to a certain extent, except that it is backed up further, more so by a consumer-based society which demands cheap products made by cheap labor in other countries, which is virtual slavery. Now it's not real slavery, because slavery and genocide are bad PR terms. We don't want to use them. For instance, if you want to marginalize and drive out a population without killing them all, the best thing to do is to make sure they're hemmed in a landlocked, airlocked, sea-locked zone that you can tell them that this is yours and you can call it whatever you like. You can call it Kentucky Fried Chicken or a Palestinian state, but it doesn't make any difference. This is where you stay, and we control everything in and out of it. This, of course, is a virtual concentration camp. We call it the Gaza Strip. It produces a situation where it is hoped, I'm sure, by those that understand the process better than I do, that eventually this race of people will die out just by the fact that the environment in which they have to have children is not conducive of long life. I think that in the long run that's going to turn out to be wrong, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. Now, it's not only that, but there are many other things as well. It's not only Rwanda, or for that matter, the Congo. Some 5 million people have been killed in the last 10 years or so because Rwanda has raw materials that the rest of the world craves to keep their economies going. For instance, the raw materials that go into your computers, your laptop computers, your tabletop PCs, your cell phones, and so forth. Some of that comes from the Congo. Enough of it comes to make it profitable enough so that civil war is going on and on, even though it officially ended some time back. Now, why are we not reporting that on the news or talking about that more often? And I think it should be talked about, should be pointed at, highlighted as much as possible. And we need to keep on going forward until it becomes so uncomfortable for people to know this, that they will do something about it. But you see, it's the way you rule a country is by organized ignorance and organizing a very well compensated, liveried, and treated police force that can number in the millions to make sure that everything stays locked down exactly the way you want it, so that when the time comes you can call upon this population, that even though they don't verbally or actively participate, they will at least virtually support anything that you do, even though they may verbally disagree with it. And that is a very interesting concept and something that this country has been very successful about for the last 30 or 40 years, at least as long as I've been alive and active and involved in Cold War activities and in some of the run-ups to the invasion of Iraq. And it's something that I've begun to understand in recent years by reading declassified documents and other sources that are available on the internet. And I've educated myself enough to understand that this is the way it's supposed to be. It's the best way to run this country. When you can militarize every arms-bearing organization all the way down to the sheriff's department, give them the same training, the same access to weapons and so forth, and further training should they need it, then this says something about how well we police this country and how strong the federal government actually is as compared to what we think. So when we're talking about genocide and we're talking about mass killing, we need to talk a little bit also about the tools set in place so that this can be carried out much more efficiently when the time comes. And believe me, it's just as possible here and has happened here in many ways as it is anywhere else in the world. Don't think that it just comes with the stomp of goose-stepping hobnail boots down a stone street. It also comes by the way of Madison Avenue advertising as a prelude for something even more awful.